friends. I'm your host, Erin Port, and welcome to the Simple Purposeful Living podcast. Life can be overwhelming and busy, so once a week, I invite you to join me, and together we will make simple tweaks to uncomplicate the hard parts of our life so we can spend more time doing what we love. Laura, I am so excited you're here today on the Simple Purposeful Living podcast. For my listeners who are just meeting you for the first time, will you share a little bit more about yourself and how you became a time management expert?
Yeah, so I write books on time management and productivity and speak about that topic, have some podcasts about that topic. There wasn't one specific moment where I suddenly became a time management expert. I also want to make clear that I'm not perfect at time management either. I am late to all sorts of things. It happens. I'd like to blame my kids, but it's not always their fault. But I'm just fascinated by time because we all have the same amount of it. Some people have more money than others. Some people are smarter or better looking than the rest of us, but we all have the same amount of time. So we are all playing with the same building blocks here. And what we do with that is going to create what our lives are going to look like. And, obviously people have advantages versus others, but I do think it is this fundamental equalizing thing that most other subjects can't match. So I'm fascinated by time and I've spent past 20 years or so writing about it.
Well, and I'm holding up your newest book, Big Time, but I first found you through your book, 168 Hours. Do you remember writing that one?
It was a long time ago. Oh, my goodness.
I've been a long time.
Celebrated its 15th anniversary last year or something.
Oh, well, you have been influencing my life for a very long time then because I've been a longtime fan. But your mindset around time has always resonated with me because of this place that you come from, a place of abundance, right? Not scarcity. And in Big Time, you open the book with this story that just stopped me in my tracks about a lottery ticket, about if you had a winning lottery ticket, you'd hope that we wouldn't worry about how many taxes we paid, or you wished it was more money that you won. But this idea of excitement and possibility, and that's kind of how you approach time. You talked about that. So can you unpack that idea a little bit and why that's so different than what we hear a lot about with time?
Yeah, well, the lottery ticket analogy, I ask people to imagine that somebody had handed you this winning ticket and now you get to do what you want with it. And it's possible that your first reaction would be like, geez, I'm going to have to pay a lot of taxes on this. It's possible that your first reaction would be like, well, it should have been more. I wonder if somebody else was handed a bigger lottery ticket. But I'd like to think that most of us would approach this windfall, this improbable windfall, with a sense of possibility and excitement of all the things that we would get to experience as a result of these winnings. And I invite people to think the same way about time, because the fact that any of us are here and have time to experience is just incredibly improbable. I like to study things like, the history of the ancient earth, and let's just say it's pretty improbable that we are here. But even if you don't like that analogy, if you had been conceived 2 seconds later than you were, you would be an entirely different person, right? Maybe there would have been some, even if you don't think about that, some historical set of events that your parents wouldn't have wound up in the same place. The chance that you exist as you is just so minuscule, and yet here you are. And here I am. And we get to experience life and time, and we have this pot of hours that we now get to manage and do, to a large degree, what we wish to with it. And I know we have constraints on our lives. We have responsibilities, just as we'd have to pay taxes on those lottery winnings. But, if you are a person listening to this podcast, meaning you are in the developed modern world, you have the freedoms that are associated with, you have just so much agency over your life and your time. And I'm excited to see what we're going to do with it.
Your book is full of practical techniques. It's one of the things I love about you because it's not just theory. You tell us, okay, here's some things I've learned. Here's some things I've learned from people I've worked with. And one of the things that I have seen you talk about in multiple books, because it must really matter to you, is this idea of a time log. And I have to admit, of all the years I've followed along with your ideology, I've never done it for myself until I was preparing for this interview. And then I was like, now's the time to try it. But you talk about this idea of tracking your time and logging each hour every week or to the best of your ability. And I want to talk a little bit about why you suggest that, and then I'll share with you what I kind of realized as a result. But I want to give you the platform first to say why it matters.
Well, most people would like to spend their time better. And if you want to spend your time better, you probably should know how you are spending your time now. Because if you don't know where the time is going now, then how do we even know if you're changing the right thing? Could be that something you thought was taking a lot of time really isn't. Maybe that's something you haven't even imagined is taking more time than you thought. And so we want to make sure we're working from good data. And that is what a time log is. It is data on where the time goes. It's not that hard. I promise. I'm glad you tried it.
Good.
I've actually been tracking my time for about 11 years now. Nobody else needs to do that. 1 week would be fine. We don't all need to be time management obsessives. But I think, you know, we want to know the data. We want to make good choices as a result of that. But there's a philosophical reason to do it too, which is that I have discovered that tracking time actually makes people feel better about their time. And that is not an automatic assumption. Like we wouldn't necessarily think that that would be the case because a lot of times people are like, well, I'm going to feel bad about that 2-hour YouTube binge. It's like, well, okay, yes, but we all do that. It's fine. It's fine. We all waste time. Keeping track of our time, make sure we're not telling ourselves stories about our lives that aren't actually true. People have all sorts of catastrophic stories about their time, like, oh, I work around the clock, or I never see my family, or I have no time for myself, I have no time for fun, I never see my friends, all these stories. And they are almost universally false. And a time log will show you that. And when it does, you can say, hey, life is okay. There are some things I could be doing better. I mean, there's probably things I could be doing worse too. I mean, so we should celebrate that things are going well. If there are challenges, they are probably solvable with tiny tweaks in how we spend our time, not huge lifestyle overhaul.
That's exactly what I found. I spent a lot of time, okay, because I'm kind of want to make sure I do it right. It's the firstborn daughter in me, right? Like if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right, and I don't want to do it wrong. But what I started to find, because I took your advice, I kind of 4 times during the day, I checked in and kind of just wrote down what I did for each hour block. But the biggest takeaway from doing it for a week, and I got sick, I had a sick kid, plans changed, was I had way more time than I thought. And I did way more of what I want to do. And my activities really did align with my values. And I would have never made that assumption without doing the time log. So I will say, I think having even done it for a week, it is a little addictive because then I was like, I want to do it again this week, almost as a reminder that there is an abundance of time. I have enough time to get what I want done. And do you see that a lot as people are doing this?
Yeah, I mean, people discover all sorts of time because honestly, there are 168 hours in a week. And whatever you are doing tends not to consume all 168 hours of the week. So people might see like, oh, I'm, working this amount, or I have this amount of time that I'm spending on household work, or, this amount of time I'm spending taking care of my kids. And yet even with all that, there is still other time. And sometimes it's spent well, sometimes it isn't spent well, but even seeing that it exists changes our entire story. It's like, okay, I do have at least some blocks of discretionary time that I can play around with. I mean, we might need to be creative about seizing them. We might need to use the resources that we have in order to take advantage of this time, but it's probably doable.
Do you find also, I think there was another aha for me, is that when I was accountable to my time, even just writing it down, I was a little more thoughtful in how I used it. Do you see that with people as well?
I do think that people make better choices as a result of tracking their time. I mean, there's a old adage about like measuring something changes the thing being observed, or observing something changes the thing being observed. So when you are tracking your time, I joked about that 2-hour YouTube binge. People are less likely to do that because they don't want to write it down. Like they don't want to actually write like in cell after cell after cell, like YouTube. I mean, so they don't. Like they stop and then they spend their time on other things that probably makes them feel better than whatever they were going to be doing during this YouTube binge. But so, it does change how you are spending the time. That said, it doesn't change it a huge amount.
Hmm.
Like people aren't going to, suddenly have an absolutely pristine house because
Yes.
they,
Yeah.
thought like, well, I'm being tracked this week.
I still wrote down Instagram doom scrolling.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, I know I had like a whole slew of it the other night. I mean, there was, when we're recording this, there's a lot of, you know, nervous like stuff in the news,
Yes.
and it was just I wound up on headlines for more than an hour that I did not mean to be on headlines for more than an hour, and it happens.
That's right. Okay, so one of the things that really struck me as I was reading your book was about these golden hours. And when we talk about the time lag, I think so often, and maybe others get into this mindset. I'm thinking of the hours of 8 to 5, my work days, and then the evening hours, they kind of feel chopped up with like kids and eating and then kind of just like getting everybody to bed, right? And I don't think and you talk about these golden hours, these evening hours, as a golden opportunity. Can you talk about why and how we can capitalize on those more?
So your golden hours are your hours after work, before bed, or after school and before bed, whatever you happen to be doing. And I kind of have this came to me because like your golden years are the years after you work and you have time for family and leisure. And it's the same thing as, each day we get a little micro version of that. We get our golden hours after our work days are through. And it is so hard to use this time well. I mean, I've seen all sorts of schedules, even people who have these like amazing morning routines. Often it just falls apart after the evening. And the day isn't over after dinner. Like there is a lot of time left to go. I've seen on schedules, time logs, various time diary data sets. Many people are done with work and work responsibilities by 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. Many people do not go to bed until 10:30 or later. We are talking at least 4 hours for the bulk of people. And for many people, it's more like 5 hours in the evening. That is a lot of time to write off and to use unintentionally. Yes, there are things that have to happen, but in general, those things do not consume 5 hours. It doesn't take 5 hours to make and eat dinner. It does not take 5 hours to start the dishwasher. It does not take 5 hours to put children to bed. I mean, sometimes it feels like it if you have my children who don't like to sleep. But I can promise you, it doesn't take 5 hours. So there is some time. And the question is, well, what do you do with it? And I'm not saying we want to do, every 15 minutes like our Outlook calendars with work. And we don't need to, set up a meeting agenda for dinner or anything like that. But maybe just think of what 30-minute intention could you do in the evening to make this time feel like it actually happened. So, a lot of us just spend it scrolling around. Maybe there are other things we could do. 30 minutes spent doing a puzzle, reading a book, going on a family walk, calling a friend. These are all things that would make your golden hours feel more golden.
I love that reminder. And I think I had another podcast guest talking about soul, body, and mind, body, and soul time with kids. 15 minutes, trying to spend 15 intentional minutes with your kids a day. And as a mom of multiple kids, I immediately was like, how? And then reading your book, I'm like, I have the time. I just need to be, like you said, a little more intentional about using it. And then kind of almost, and I know you like to do this, is like plan for it a little bit. Like, what can I do so that you're not just floundering in the moment, but making a bit of a plan for it. And you talk about that white space in your calendar and making space for serendipity. Can you talk to us? You talk about that in the book too, but can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because I think in a world of productivity and many time management experts, they're all about maximizing every moment for productivity. And this feels a little bit different.
So there's really two ways it's a different mindset. So serendipity is wonderful things that are not sought for. So it's things that come into your life that you are not actively looking for. And I found that many big opportunities, big breaks, things like that come to us through serendipity. Because if you knew how to make it happen already, you would be doing it, right? Anyone listening to this podcast, you are a productive, ambitious person. You would be doing what it is. It's something that you don't know. It's somebody you don't know. It's an opportunity you don't know about. That's what's going to come to you. So the question is, does your life allow for wonderful things to reach you? And if you are booked up every minute and constantly feeling behind, you are not going to be available for these things. Somebody sends you an email saying, hey, I wanted to get together with you to talk about X, and it's a topic you're interested in, but you're like, oh gosh, I don't have time for that. Or somebody you haven't seen in a while is like, oh, I'm going to be in town. Could we get together? And you're like, oh gosh, I have so much other things to do. But those are often the things that lead to something new because it's new inputs coming into your life that you didn't know about before. So how do we leave space? I mean, obviously, we still need boundaries. Many people do say yes to things that they don't want to do, and they should learn to say no more often. But we need to come up with ways that we're going to say calculated yeses, that we can be thoughtfully accessible so good things can reach us. And one of the best things you can do, get rid of the stuff that you don't want to do. Like if there are things you don't want to do in your life, what can you do to minimize them, get rid of them as much as possible, and consciously put in open space into your schedule? Because when you have that open space, then you feel ready for the opportunities that come to you and you're not pushing them away.
I love that. Such a good reminder. And I think with our busy pack schedules, right? We oftentimes miss out on those things. And sometimes too, it's the happiest things because it's so unexpected. There's no expectations associated with it. Okay. So another thing you talk about in the book is being a ringmaster of your life. And I never felt more seen. I was like, yes, 4 kids, a business, life. Yes, I feel like a ringmaster. But I was like, wow, with sparkles and spandex, I could do this. But in that circus illustration, you said something that I think is so important. You talked about preparing for the net. And talk to us about that. Why is it important to prepare for the net?
So, this is probably my favorite section of the whole book. I love the idea of thinking of myself as the ringmaster of the circus of my life, right? And when people say life is a circus, they are abusing that metaphor. Like a circus is not chaotic. This is totally wrong. A circus is the most organized thing you have ever seen. It's complex, but it is very, very organized. All the tricks are executed within a fraction of a second. They are incredibly well rehearsed. Nobody gets shot out of the cannon at the wrong time, right? Like, if your life is a circus, that is a compliment. And you, the ringmaster, are in charge of the 3 rings, which for many people are career, relationships, or self. But if you have a big volunteering practice or you're homeschooling, maybe that's your 3rd ring. But, different rings of life that we are managing. But the net is the part where people often go astray on because we create these incredibly complex, well-orchestrated schedules and one thing goes wrong and then everything falls apart. But you simply cannot have a complex life where it will be a disaster if something goes wrong. And as such, a circus has a net under their performers because if they trip, if the person suddenly doesn't catch them at the right moment, if they're, something is just slightly off, you don't want it to be a disaster. Like this, they could be horribly injured if that were the case. So you want to have a net and you have to train into the net. Like it can't be an afterthought. Like you have to know exactly how you're going to land in that net if you do fall so that you are not, injured in the course of this happening and, check that the net is there and that the net is functional and you know how to land in the net. So this is obviously a metaphor here, but we need this in our lives. Things are going to go wrong. When they go wrong, do you know what you are going to do? Have you rehearsed this option? Have you thought it through? Is option B good enough that you are not so sad about option A going wrong? And if you are, if it's all in place, your life will keep moving forward. Things will feel so much less chaotic. They can be complex, but not chaos. Chaos and complexity are not the same thing at all.
Can you give us a real life example of a time where you planned for a net just for women to kind of be able to put this into practice in their life?
Yeah, well, I mean, my husband and I both travel for work. So a very common incident of somebody falling into the net is a flight being delayed, right? You cannot be surprised that a flight would be canceled or delayed. If you are surprised by that fact, then, that life is just not going to work. And I know a lot of people wind up having one person maybe not travel for work because of that. But, that's a choice. But you don't have to make that choice. You can also build a schedule where it's okay if a flight is delayed. So, or a train or whatever. So I'm coming home from a work thing on Wednesday, the next week of where we're recording this. My husband needs to leave for something Wednesday morning. Normally, our childcare doesn't start till later on Wednesdays because the kids are at school and we need people in the afternoon, but we don't normally need them in the morning. But he has to be on a train. I'm like, well, we got somebody who could be there at 9, but then I think he just might miss his train. So I was like, well, I've got somebody else we could call who could come at 7:30. And that would be what we're going to do. We're not going to rely on the 9 o'clock. That would be easier. We're going to go ahead and book the 7:30. So we have the net. He will make his train. And then even if I'm delayed, we've got still have the childcare in the evening. We didn't move that later childcare to the morning to cover it. We have it in the afternoon. So if I am delayed, we have it, right? This is how this winds up playing out most of the time.
It's such a good reminder and a good way to just plan ahead. I always tell people when it comes to even meal planning, as simple as having backups in your fridge or freezer, like even a box of macaroni and cheese, because the chances of things happening, right? You get home late from school or you forget to thaw the meat. It's as simple as just having a backup plan so that when things happen, because they do, having that's such a good reminder too. And planning for the net. I think that's such a good reminder. Okay. So one of the things I learned from you very early on, I can't remember what book because I've read them all. You talk about planning for your next week on Friday. And I like this because I always did it. And I like the idea because then I'm going into the weekend knowing next week is planned and I just rest better. It's like my brain knows next week is handled. I can rest. But you said something in this book that I thought was so interesting. Two things. Number one, that you plan on Friday so you can plan the weekend twice, which I'd never thought about. And you treat your weekends like vacations. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? I was like, wait a minute. I need a vacation every weekend. Yes.
Yeah, so the vacation one is out of some research done by Cassie Holmes and some other people who study happiness and time. And they had a bunch of their research subjects going into the weekend, basically said, either treat it like a normal weekend, tell us what you did afterwards. Or they said, view this upcoming weekend as a vacation. And then they interviewed people about how they felt and what they did. And they found that this little mindset shift made people treat this time as special. Like they were less likely to view it as, okay, the weekend is when I get caught up on chores, because why would you do that on your vacation? Like they were more likely to sort of linger in the moment or get together and do things with people because you're on vacation. You're supposed to be enjoying yourself. You're supposed to be having a fun time. And it doesn't cost anything to do this. I mean, you're not going anywhere most of the time. You're having a vacation in your own life. But we do often get time off, like most people who work a regular job, work 5 days and have 2 days off in the course of the week. Even if you work for yourself, you can decide to structure it so you have, a weekend off. And viewing it as a vacation just allows you to seize this time you have every week in your schedule to feel more relaxed and feel more satisfied with life. Now, obviously, to do that, if you have a complex life, you probably need to plan your weekend. And this leads me to the idea of planning late in the week. Lots of people will do weekly planning on like Sunday night or even Monday morning. Like, get into work on Monday morning. You're like, okay, now it's time to figure out what I'm doing this week. I would encourage people to move that backwards a little further. If you plan on Friday, then this gives you an opportunity not only to plan the entire upcoming week, which means you get to use all of Monday. You're not figuring out Monday morning what you're going to do on Monday. You're going to use all of the week. You can also plan your weekends twice. Because if you're planning on Friday, looking at the next Monday to Sunday week, you will take a look at that weekend that is 8 to 9 days ahead of time. And you'll have a rough idea of what you're going to do. Now, obviously, you don't know all things. You don't know the weather. People are just confused if you ask for play dates for the weekend 8 to 9 days ahead of time. I would not recommend doing that. I've had very texts coming back from people like, what Saturday are we talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway, so not that, but get the broad contours. And if there's anything big you wanted to do, like if you wanted to make a day trip somewhere, if you need tickets for something that's in demand, you need to book a babysitter. Now is actually a great time to do that for the day, the weekend that's 8 to 9 days ahead of time. But the upside of planning on Friday is then you can also tighten your plan for the upcoming weekend, for that Friday, Saturday, Sunday that you're about to enter into. And so working with the loose plan you made a week earlier, you see what is still happening. Based on the weather, is there anything you want to add or subtract based on what's come up during the week and people mention things? Now's a good time to double check if you're doing those play dates or anything like that. And you can just make it better from that close in perspective when you've already done the big picture thinking 8 to 9 days ahead of time. Now, planning your weekend twice is, I mean, it was just a quirk of something that came out of when I started doing this planning. I thought Friday is a good time because I'm using business hours. I get to use all of Monday for what I want to do because I'm not planning on Monday. I don't have to take time over my weekend to do it. But then that planning the weekend twice thing just, I was like, oh, I love this. My weekends are so much better when I plan them twice. Like, how could they not be? You're planning them twice.
Such a good reminder. And like you said, such a like an unintentional positive consequence. But again, and I agree. I think you talk about it in one of your books too, that like you front load your weeks, which I do as well. So like you said, then you can hit the ground running on Monday and we're winding down on Friday. I mean, it's kind of like at 10 o'clock at night why I doom scroll because my self-control is real low at 10 o'clock. It's the same on Friday afternoon. But I look forward to planning because it's like, oh, I get to plan. And so it's kind of like it kind of feels like a little bit of like the cherry on top, something that's not super hard on the brain and something I'm looking forward to as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it uses a different energy. It takes sort of more discipline and focus to, set up 10 appointments or whatever you're doing versus telling yourself you need to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're telling your future self to do it. You don't have to actually execute on it. And so our Friday brains might be willing to do the planning in a way that we are not able to just keep going on whatever we were doing before.
Yeah, I like to boss my future self around on Friday. There you go. Yeah, very bossy on Friday. That's so good. Okay, so many great ideas. I can't tell them all because they need to read it themselves. Your brand new book, Big Time. If there's one thing you hope readers will take away reading it, what would you want them to have?
So, I mean, I'm so glad you tracked your time as a result of reading this book. And I hope that other people will too, because that is something you can do that is so simple. It is not that challenging. I mean, just check in a couple times a day, write down what you've done since the last time you checked in. But knowing where the time goes and the truth really sets us free. It allows us to have a completely different picture of our lives, one that's more hopeful, one where the stories are rooted in reality as opposed to the catastrophes that we normally think about.
You just saying that reminded me of when we started budgeting our money, because for years we kind of didn't have a good system for our money. And every time I went shopping, I was stressed because I was like, I don't know if we have the money set aside for clothing or whatever. And the minute that we budgeted our time or our money, it was like, okay, I can go shopping with ease. It's that same idea of like, okay, I have this much time. Now I get to use it, in such a way. It is a different mindset. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the thing with money, though, I mean, you can make more money. You
True.
cannot make more time.
True.
So it is more strictly limited, and yet I feel like so many people are not using the time that we actually have, or using the resources we have to, allocate the time in ways that we could. And so it's like, if you want to think about it, it's kind of like we're sitting on this pot of money that we didn't even know we had. Right. And that's kind of, wow, it's fun to go shopping when you know that.
Yes.
So I hope people have that mindset if they go into time tracking.
So good. So good. And that's what I came away with. Time abundance. That was my biggest like, whoa, I did not see that coming. Okay, two questions I ask every single guest is there a tiny tweak, a small change you've made recently that has made life either easier or lighter?
So this has been a new one as I have been studying the concept of golden hours that we talked about and using evenings, but just putting down on my to-do list for the day, my golden hour intention for the evening. And I am a person who obeys my to-do list. It's like I've created it for future Laura, and now future Laura needs to do it. And she does. She does what is on the to-do list. It has been carefully constructed, so it's not too much, but it is something that she obeys. And so if I put something fun on the evening, I will do it. So I have put 30 minutes of puzzle on my to-do list for my golden hours. And then I'm like, yes, now I need to go do 30 minutes on my puzzle. And I do, and I cross it off, and I really enjoy doing 30 minutes on the puzzle. Or, tonight I'm going to run at night. I don't normally run in the evenings. It's a new thing for me. But, my kids are getting older. They don't need me hovering over them every second. They can entertain themselves in the evenings. And so it's really opened up this time. And now I want to make sure I'm using it. And so figuring out what my evening hour intention is, putting it on the to-do list, and then crossing it off makes me very happy.
It's why I put walking every morning. I put it on the to-do list. I always tell people it doesn't just have to be the need tos, it can be the want tos as well. Such a good tweak. Okay, what's a tiny joy you've enjoyed lately?
Let's see. So when we're recording this, it's still, colder weather. Hopefully by the time this airs, it'll be nice and springy, and this will be a foreign thought for everything. But I have a gas fireplace in my office. So we bought this house several years ago and did this huge renovation of it, and it had, old fireplace in a study, which I then commandeered as my office. So we converted it to a gas fireplace. And I have to remind myself, like, oh yeah, you could turn it on. You can have a fire going in the background as you're writing your stuff. Like, it makes me feel more, like I'm this fancy writer as opposed to whatever I am doing, just cranking out my stuff. So I have really enjoyed having that fireplace going. It's made winter feel more cozy, maybe even a little bit more productive and creative, since I'm, enjoying that sensation of being a serious writer who has a fireplace.
It's funny, we have one of those too, and I just was always saving it for special occasions. And I thought, literally, it's a flip of the switch. Like, and
Yeah,
it
there's
does
no
it.
reason to save it. It's not like making a wood fire where it's a commitment. Like, this is on and off. It's no different than turning on your light switch.
Exactly. And I'm like, why am I not? It just amplifies my five senses. It makes everything feel more cozy. Yes, flip the switch, do the thing, light the candle. It's worth it. I love it. It adds to the joy. Laura, tell everybody where they can find you. You host podcasts, you're a prolific writer and author. And so I know they're going to get to know you better.
Yeah, well, I hope they will, because I love hearing from people. So come visit me at my website, which is lauravanderkam.com. I have links there to all my books, to Big Time, the new one. You can learn more about my podcasts, Best of Both Worlds and Before Breakfast, which Aaron was a guest on. And you can learn about my newsletters and all those other things. And, I blog there. Love comments. Please join the discussion.
And log your time. And then you can email Laura and talk about it because I know that you love to do that.
Laura at lauravanderkam.com. I love to hear from people. And if you're sending me a time log, I do a little happy dance. So I would love to see it.
Awesome. Laura, thank you for your time. I know it's valuable and I appreciate your insights as we all think about time more abundantly.
Thank you for having me.
You liked this episode? It would mean so much if you'd share it with a friend or leave a quick rating and review so others can find our show. Until next time, you can find me at Simple Purposeful Living on Instagram and Facebook.